and
Oddworld.
Hey oddballs, I'm your host Jensen, and welcome to episode 149. Apologies if today's episode is a little bit longer than most, only because I want to finish out chapter 1 of the psychic book, and then we do have 2 pretty long stories, so let's just get into it. Here we go. It's lesson time. Alright, today's psychic lesson is Edgar Cayce, father of the New Age. The largest impact on the advancement of psychic knowledge was made by a man named Edgar Cayce, 1877 to 1945, who is now considered to be the founder of the New Age movement. Cayce spent much of his life trying to understand what he did while he was in the trance. While in trance, he spoke about unknown civilizations in which the soul hadn't yet developed a physical body and was free to travel about without the restriction of gravity and to communicate through thought. Cayce indicated in his readings that souls were originally thought forms that were not destined to inhabit Earth. Rather, they were early observers of life here that became so intrigued with its development that they chose to enter these life forms and then became trapped. When a soul leaves its physical body at death, it still exists on a non-physical plane. Some people have unconscious memories of what it was like to exist in pure thought form. You may have soul memories of those early times that can help you in your psychic development. Cayce was an unlikely psychic candidate for reaching the pinnacle of acclaim that he still enjoys today, more than half a century since his death. He began life in rural Kentucky's tobacco country. He was close to his grandfather, Thomas Jefferson Cayce, who is said to have special psychic abilities. Tragedy struck one day when young Cayce witnessed the death of his grandfather in an accident with a horse. After the incident, young Edgar would visit his grandfather's spirit in one of the barns. Cayce's grandmother and mother encouraged him to continue these visits and to tell them about his experiences. Many calamities befell young Edgar. When he was 3, he fell against a fence post and punctured his skull on a nail, possibly deep enough to reach his brain. His father poured turpentine in the wound, and Cayce recovered in a short period of time. At 15, he was hit on the spine by a ball and began to act strangely. After his father sent him to bed, he entered a hypnotic trance, telling his father what to do to cure him. His father followed the directions, and Cayce awoke the next morning his normal self. When he was in his 20s, he lost his voice. A traveling stage hypnosis temporarily helped him, and he learned to enter a self-hypnotic trance aided by a local man named Al Lane, who had taken a mail order course on the subject. While in this altered state, Cayce was able to give himself the cure for his voice blockage. His throat turned bright red, he coughed up some blood, and his voice returned. Over the next year, Cayce's voice would need further treatment on a monthly basis, and Lane, intrigued by Cayce's diagnostic abilities, experimented with his subject, hoping to uncover answers about his talent. In 1931, Cayce and his supporters formed an association for research and enlightenment for the purpose of studying, researching, and disseminating information about extrasensory perception, or ESP, as well as dreams, holistic health, and life after death. The center was located in Virginia Beach, where it remains today. Cayce was able to use his psychic abilities in 4 different areas: precognition, retrocognition, clairvoyance, and telepathy. He had the ability to see into the future and give predictions of events to come. He could look into a person's past to find the origins of an existing health condition. He had the physical ability to see through objects and could see inside the human body. He was able to enter another mind and know what the person was thinking. He could also sleep on a book and remember its contents when he awoke. So that was a lot of information, and I never really realized that this Edgar Cayce guy was the founder of the New Age and all of this like psychic stuff basically. I mean, probably not the founder per se, because I'm sure like if you go back in history of things, maybe maybe other people in other countries like a long time ago had this ability. I don't know, but it's still pretty cool nonetheless. And also just really interesting and it's just weird to wrap my brain around some of those things. So I don't know. You guys let me know, and we're going to go ahead and move on to stories.
This comes from And Never Seen Again on Reddit.
I lived in a haunted apartment, and I'm still recovering. I'm gonna put a trigger warning on here because I talk about substances and alcohol. I've been wanting to tell this story for a while, but haven't really known how. Fair warning, this is gonna be long, but shortened to the best of my ability. I moved out of this apartment in a frenzy, almost 2 years ago now. I've had a lot of time to process it, but still can't wrap my head around what happened there. I've tried looking up information about it to see if any deaths ever occurred there, but couldn't find anything. Anyway, this was the first apartment I moved into on my own. I split the rent with my younger sister. I didn't notice anything weird with it at first. The rent was cheap, it was an old building, and kind of dusty, but had some new appliances, and it was spacious. It even had an extra room, which I could use as an art studio. There were new floors in the kitchen, nice hardwood in the living room, and it was a good location. It was right up the street from a nice park with a river. Overall, it seemed great, so we signed the lease and moved in the very next day. The first night I slept there, I didn't sleep well. Once again though, nothing weird. I just wasn't used to the noise from the neighbors, and because I was dirt poor, I didn't have a bed or curtains or anything, so it was uncomfortable, but normal. A few weeks in, I'd got myself a mattress from Walmart and curtains to block out the streetlights. I'd set up my art studio and found some more furniture, either secondhand or from relatives. The place began to feel like home. That was when the weird things started happening. First, it was small things that were easy to brush off. My sister could hear silverware clinking in the kitchen at night. Then she accused me of messing with her doorknob while she was trying to sleep. We chalked it up to vibrations from cars driving down the street, or neighbors making the noise. These small disturbances continued, but we thought nothing of it. I started to have trouble sleeping. I'd wake up several times throughout the night. At the time, I worked early mornings at a coffee shop, so sometimes I'd wake up at 3 or 4 in the morning and just stay up the rest of the night. There was no clear reason why I couldn't sleep. I'd just find myself waking up at odd hours, wide awake. Eventually, it took a toll on me, and I started having a nightcap to knock me out each night, usually just a glass of whiskey, straight. I never drank much before, but for some reason, it seemed like the best thing to do. It worked for a while. Meanwhile, my sister was also having trouble sleeping. She'd stay up late playing music too loudly, which caused friction between us. More friction. I got tips at my job, which I kept in the coffee can in my room. Over time, I noticed money missing. We also fought about her drinking my liquor, and then about her spilling alcohol all over the apartment, and then about me waking up in the middle of the night, finding my bedroom door wide open and things moved around my room. I felt a need to protect myself somehow and leaned heavily into some kind of spirituality. I cleansed the apartment with sage often. I kept certain crystals in my pockets. I started seeing 444 repeatedly. None of this really did anything, of course, but I felt a compulsive need to light the sage and to charge the crystals. Now, when I woke up at night, I'd walk down the street to the river and lay the crystals out on the rocks. I'd write 444 on a piece of paper and then burn it with a lighter and throw it in the river. I don't know why I did this. I also went on a lot of long walks to clear my head and to get out of the apartment. I felt like the only time I could think clearly was when I wasn't in the building. As time went on, both me and my sister drank more and more heavily. There are many nights there that I don't remember. I'd be working in my studio, having a glass of whiskey, and would wake up in my bed soaked in vomit. The art I made was weird. A lot of gore, watercolors. There's one of a snake coming out of a woman's belly, and another of two women plucking out each other's eyeballs. There's one drawing of my sister that I tore up and made into a collage. The inspiration for these things seemed to come in flashes. I get really strong visions and had to create them, all while getting drunk out of my mind. I've tried to create more images in that same style now, but I physically just can't do it. I started getting terrible nightmares where I'd wake up sweating and screaming. Really horrific stuff. Some of them were reoccurring. One in particular was the room next to me, my art studio, on fire. There was a blonde, middle-aged woman I saw in a lot of these dreams, and she always looked cross. Not sad or even angry, but just very stern and almost disappointed. The whispers started maybe 6 months in. At night, while falling asleep, I'd hear these whispers. Sometimes they'd whisper my name. Often they said, "Leave the body, keep the body, leave the body." Over and over again like that. Through all of this, I continued to see 444 a lot and tried to do yoga and meditation during the day. Here was the only time I had an out-of-body experience when meditating. I felt my whole body vibrating and felt a pop. And then I felt like I was floating around the apartment and could float through and see everything. My sister came into the room while it was happening and tried to talk to me, but I couldn't respond to her. It felt like only a few minutes, but when I came out of it, I saw that over an hour had passed. Bad stuff happened in this apartment. My sister invited a boy over who she hooked up with and started dating, who eventually turned out to be very abusive to her. Other people she invited over always seemed to start these big, awful arguments. One of these people broke the window to the front door. We had to call the police a few times because people got violent. I invited my best friend over one night. I never had romantic feelings for her, but for some reason, she and I hooked up, started dating, and things ended between us very badly. But before we broke up, I spent days at a time at her place. Whenever I returned to the apartment, I felt terrible, sick, and my skin felt itchy, almost like I was allergic to it. I also felt inexplicably on edge and irritated. I took allergy medicine for a while, thinking I had a dust allergy, but it didn't help anything. The only thing that helped was not being there and not sleeping there. I got to the point where I was afraid to go to sleep at night because of the whispers and the nightmares. The drinking certainly didn't help things. But when I was there, all I wanted to do was drink and disassociate as much as possible. I struggled with depression, and it got very bad during this time. After my ex and I broke up, I couldn't stand to stay in the apartment any longer, so I left and moved 40 minutes away to a new town. I slept soundly in my new place, but that old apartment shifted something in me. I started getting flashbacks from something traumatic that happened to me as a child, and I checked myself into a hospital and stayed there 10 days. I know this is long and weird, but there's more to add. I have 2 other siblings aside from the one I shared the apartment with, and they all lived there at one point or another. Each one of them started using alcohol or other substances heavily, and each one reported feeling a sense of unease there. Basically, staying there made us all crash out. I can't help but feel like something paranormal was at play. Now, we are all moved out of there for good. I don't drink often anymore, but when I do, I don't drink whiskey. I have the same crystals I used while I was there, and still consider myself spiritual, but not nearly as fanatic about it as I was then. All of us are much more stable now. My depression is under control, and I don't have many nightmares or flashbacks. I'm still recovering from all the money I lost there, either from buying alcohol or my sister stealing from me, or from not ever getting my double security deposit back. I am, however, writing this because last night I dreamt about those awful whispers, and woke myself up screaming. I'm here in my new place and I feel safe, but God, I never want to experience anything like that ever again. I felt like a different version of myself then. Something I never want to see again for as long as I live. Like I said, some of it I don't even remember very well, but there was something very, very wrong about that place. But somehow I feel a weird sort of attachment to it, like a toxic relationship or something. It's bizarre. I still don't know if it was my mental illness or something else. I will say that as soon as we all moved out, new tenants moved in, but the place went back up for rent just a few months later. All I can say is, good luck to whoever moves in there next. That place is cursed. Wow. First of all, so glad that this person was able to get away from this place and all of their siblings as well, and that they're doing relatively okay, but it feels like there is a big scar left on them from this place, and hopefully within time it goes away, because reading it just feels so heavy on your heart. I can't even imagine what this person even feels like because they went through it. So that aside, it really feels like the Amityville Horror House, and it also kind of feels like the Fall of the House of Usher. Two completely different stories, I understand. But it has that same vibe, as in the Amityville Horror House. They moved in, things were fine, and then it went downhill. And then, of course, that ended badly for everybody. But like, they were just a normal family, and then the house was really just kind of took over, unless it was just mental illness, whatever. But for the paranormal sake of things, we will say that there was negative stuff there. I don't know. And then of course you have the Fall of the House of Usher, which honestly, I'm not going to give a whole lot of details if you don't know what it is. But long story short, basically there's just a bunch of negative stuff. And the only thing I am going to give away is like they make a deal with the devil. And so now I'm thinking like, what if in this apartment complex that maybe there was some kind of like, I don't know, negative stuff happening maybe underneath, like in a creepy basement, like maybe the owner of the apartment complex was doing creepy stuff, maybe another apartment over. I don't know. Maybe there was something creepy going on in that aspect. But then like you have the dream of this person's art studio on fire, and then a lady just kind of standing in it looking disappointed, which then to me feels like maybe there's a nice ghost there, maybe, who is just like, I can't believe that you're drinking and doing all this stuff, like shame on you, which I mean, that's not how I feel. I'm just trying to make sense of it all, but maybe there's multiple spirits there. My brain's really jumping all over the place with this one because I'm thinking maybe there's some kind of negative entity there and they latched on to whoever is in that apartment. If all the siblings experience something, then it's got to be something there. You know what I mean? Obviously. But maybe there's a negative entity, and then there's also like maybe a not negative one, but just one that's just like, ugh, I'm just so disappointed in your guys' behavior. Or maybe they're all negative and they're going, I'm disappointed in your behavior that we caused. But like they're shaming you to make you feel like shit about yourself. Does that make sense? I'm really jumping out and diving in the deep end on this one, but it could also be not paranormal. It could be like a mold thing, or it could also be like asbestos if it's like a really old building, because I know that both of those could cause hallucinations or just like feeling not okay. Now, I don't know if allergy meds can help with asbestos, because that's not mold, because mold would be the allergy, yeah, but asbestos is not. So maybe it's more of that type of situation, or really maybe there's something negative there. Because also when you're in a negative space, you kind of attract negative people. So it could be one of those situations with all the people that are coming in who are just kind of seeming not good people if they're having to call the cops. But God, I don't know. I don't even know where to go with this. This is just crazy, and not crazy like in a mean way, like, oh, you're crazy. It's like my brain is just like, I can't believe this happened to this person and their family. Oh my God. And it doesn't really help either that, alcohol and substances are being used as well. That doesn't help. But I'm starting to lean towards maybe one of two things. Something super negative paranormal that is just attached there. And the reason why this person can't find any history is probably because it just hasn't been disclosed, as in maybe nobody's died there. And yes, people have lived there, but you're not going to have records. There's nothing that's ever happened there. Then yeah, there's probably not going to be any records. But there was somebody in the apartment prior to everybody else living there. Maybe they did something. Maybe they conjured up something. And now it's just attached to everybody else. Maybe that happened. Or maybe it really is just an asbestos problem, because not only does it cause hallucinations, it does mess with your sleep, and it does all kinds of crazy things. So I'm not saying it's not paranormal, and I'm not saying it's not something natural, but well, I guess, is that natural? And I'm not saying it's either of these either. In my opinion, I think it's either paranormal or asbestos, or maybe it's both. And either way, this is terrifying for this person and their family. And I kind of just hope that places like that just kind of go abandoned, because that's just scary. It's just scary. And if you guys have any comments or any ideas as to what is going on, please let me know. And we're going to go ahead and move on to the next story.
This comes from SLAROVSKY on Reddit.
I just wanted to share a few real stories that happened to me in 2021. I've processed this experience, and I feel like I had contact with something outworldly. English is not my first language. Sorry for possible mistakes. Also, I want you to know that I'm an atheist, and I don't give a fuck about supernatural stuff or superstition things. I was 25 and just moved to the biggest city of my country. Geographically, I'm from Eastern Europe. My friend gave me a contact of her friend, saying that she had a free room to rent in a decent neighborhood for a decent price. The girl was nice, the apartment was great, and it was only 30 minutes to my cousin's house. So, I accepted the offer and I moved in. As I said, the girl was great. We smoked weed sometimes, baked some cakes, sometimes going out to eat. So, I can say we became great buds. One day, I asked her in a funny way if there are any ghosts in this place. And she said, no, my mom picked the new apartment where people didn't die. It seems it's not necessary to die for ghosts to appear. The first thing I experienced is the sound of glass jars rolling on the hallway's floor. The sounds happened some nights, and sometimes the shit was quiet. I asked the girl if it's okay, and she said something about mistakes during building and then walls, so we can hear everything. Also, we were storing some glass bottles for recycling on the floor, but I didn't connect it with the noises. However, can they roll by themselves? The second thing scared the shit out of me. I was home after a cafe shift and came home, ate something, and started listening to some music on my laptop. The music was changing, 5 seconds between songs, and I hear banging sounds on my room door. Literally someone was loudly knocking on my door. I shut down the music. Maybe it's too late, people are sleeping and that could be a problem, and went to the door to open it. Nothing. Dark hallway, me, and the feeling that someone is looking at me. Okay, maybe that was my landlord girl. So I went to her door and knocked. Complete silence. I opened it a bit, and the pink lamp was on, and she was obviously sleeping. That was 2 a.m. I came back to my room, closed the door, shut down my laptop, and went to bed. What the actual fuck? Then all this weird shit stopped, except for the feeling of a weird presence of someone looking at my back from the third empty room of the house. Okay, a month passed. I forgot all of that happened, and I was just living my life. Another summer night after a long break, the sounds of bottles or jars continued. That lasted for an hour, and I was already pissed. I opened the door, turned on the light on my phone, and started to look for what the fuck happened. There was a jar that must have been from the recycling, was rolling on the floor. Then I got a feeling of a presence, and then a voice said my name. Not just a voice, but whispering. And I don't want to know what that shit is. It felt more like a radio record, but more clear and right in my ear. And it was from the side of the third empty room. I want you to believe it's not made up. I can feel those goosebumps right now as I'm writing this story. The last thing that happened to me in this place made me change my mind about all of these ghost stories. Some of them came to be true as I experienced the shit myself. So the last thing was the end of all the creepy stuff, but it was the most terrifying. My flatmate friend landlord went to her countryside house with her mom, and I was there alone for a few days. That was a normal night, except for stuff like bottle rolling sounds and the presence feeling. I got used to it, but in my own room, I felt safe, and nothing bad ever happened there. I had to pee so bad, but the noises got louder, and I was so scared. I'm alone, and this buddy is deciding to fully annoy me. I stayed in my room for about 30 minutes more, and said out loud, I'm not afraid of you, stupid ghost. I was so afraid, and I lied to myself to be even more brave. I opened the door, went into the hallway, feeling the presence everywhere in the hallway. It was even cold, even though it was summer. And I ran to turn on the light. When I clicked it, the lamp exploded. Not just turned off, but exploded into pieces. I ran back to my room, locked the door, and stayed there until morning. Those episodes showed me that there is something that is beyond our understanding, or that just exists in a different world. Also, my flatmate landlady said that her dad passed away. What do you think? Did I just go mad, or did I really experience some supernatural stuff? I also have a few more creepy stories from that place and from other people who live there as well. And of course I believe them. I can share their stories if you want. Cheers. I love everything about this because it's funny, but yet it's also scary. It's great. I just love it so much. I love it so much. I'm thinking that there was something paranormal there. And you know what? Honestly, I don't believe that someone has to die in a house or a building for it to be haunted, because it could be the land. It could be spirits passing through. There could have been some kind of like portal or something opened, like kind of like the previous story. There was no record of anything happening there, but yet stuff was going on. But this person obviously saw one of their glass bottles rolling on the floor, and then the lamp shattered. Are you freaking kidding me right now? Like, are you freaking kidding me? I mean, I know this person had to pee, so they probably peed themselves right there, because I definitely would have. Like, that's pretty extreme. Both of these stories are really extreme. It's just scary. It's scary to think that places like this exist with like extreme paranormal stuff happening. And oddly enough, not really oddly, because I like to investigate places, these are the places that I definitely would like to go to. And these people might think I'm crazy, but the first one, I don't even know. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, probably not the first one, because that's a really a mind F in like a different type of way. Like that one's just, I don't want to say like depressing, because it's kind of, that feels a little mean, but like that's the best way I can explain that one. It just feels sad and like terrifying. And this one is just terrifying. This one's just terrifying. I mean, I don't know what I would do if a lamp exploded when I would turn it on. Like, I don't know what I would do. Now, seeing a bottle roll around, that's scary. Absolutely. Hearing whispers and stuff. Yeah, sure. That's scary too. But these two are just similar and different in so many ways. And I don't know. I'm going to have to say that this one definitely has some kind of spirit in it, because why is this stuff happening? I mean, like this person said, something doesn't have to die to be there. And I fully believe that. What are your guys' thoughts? let me know. If you have a paranormal story like either story today, let me know. I am sorry, sort of, that this one is a little bit longer, but these were really good stories, and I also really enjoyed the psychic book. So anyhow, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And well, it's an odd world after all. Oddballs, thank you for listening. And if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to leave 5 stars or thumbs up on whatever podcast platform you listen on. If you have any comments for this episode, comment below or head over to Instagram and comment on this episode's preview. To submit a story or for more information, go to itsanoddworldafterall.com.